Hi guys, welcome back to Gardening with Creations by DX & Co. Today, as you can see behind me, this is my original garden, and the temperature starting to change. We're starting to head towards fall. I haven't been spending a ton of time in this garden here as I've been focusing on the garden makeover, which I'm sure you guys will see the video on that soon if you haven't already. And so I'm focusing a lot of time there. So what I want to do today is show you what I'm doing to clean up this garden to get it ready for the fall, winter. Let's get started. So as you can see here, this one's a little bit overgrown. We've got the strawberry bed just starting to take over where the path used to be, because I've kind of, where the greenhouse used to be, kind of made that my new path. And then you can see a lot of just weeds here, mixed in with some volunteer tomatoes on top of that going on there. And then my cucumbers I ended up taking out already, and I've got to move this kind of trellis that we were using here. Move that, get it ready for Halloween. Our pepper plants are still thriving, so I'm going to leave them alone. You can see the green pepper plants still doing well. Jalapeno plants are busheling like crazy and still growing. The actual pepper, the Greek pepperoncinis here, I actually ended up not using as many of them because I love it when they turn red. They get very sweet, but unfortunately they're too close to the jalapenos. So lesson learned, too close to the jalapenos. They are a bit spicy this season, which is great. It's just I didn't get to use as many for what I wanted them to be for. But the jalapenos are doing well. Jalapenos, you can see, even are starting to turn red and ripen on the vine like that. They're still just as spicy when they're red, guys. Trust me. My kids found that out the hard way. And there is a tomato plant over there that I'm going to leave for now because I really want to get some tomatoes on it. Another video for that one coming up soon, and I'll explain that as well. So about placement of your plants, if you will. So one of the things I want to get started today, as you can see right behind, and you can maybe tell in this section here, that this is my tomato plants, right? So I had 4 different varieties growing here. I had cherries, beefsteak, early girls, and I also had some heirloom tomatoes growing there, the Brandywine, which are absolutely delicious. But as you can see, it just got really overgrown. I didn't really have a lot of time to spend with these tomatoes as I spent more time in the back with the other tomatoes. So I'm just going to go ahead and take all these out early, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do that. So let me go get my shears. Now, I'm not using shears that I would typically use. I'm going to use an older pair, right? Because I'm not trying to not spread any cross-contaminate or anything like that. I'm not worried about spreading disease from plant to plant. I'm just cleaning up. So I'd rather use an old pair of shears to clean up than a new pair of shears that I'm going to have to end up reusing and everything. So let me get started with that. Let me go grab my shears. Okay, so as I mentioned before, got a nice older pair of shears here. You can see it's starting to rust a little, no worries. And I am going to take all of this stuff here out. And I'm just going to start by kind of clipping some of the stuff, like even this tall weed, out of my way, right? Just cut it there, clean it up. Now I've got a trash can behind me. I am not throwing this stuff out. I'm actually going to put it all into my compost bin. So I will be pruning up these Rosa Sharons. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description below. But I will be pruning up the Rosa Sharons again this season. You can see they did so well. They're just over dangling where I had all my plants last year. Which is fine because I'm going to be, as I mentioned, I'm going to be redoing this entire I'm moving this entire garden. I apologize to the backyard. So what I'm trying to do here is just kind of get this stuff out of the way. Little tree frog there, buddy. Hey, bud. So now you can see I can throw this in the compost just like this, or I can cut it down into smaller sections, right? That's just going to help it break down faster if I cut it into smaller sections, and it's going to be easier to turn later on. So as I'm going, I could go back and cut all this up later, but as I'm going, I'm going to go ahead and cut it as I see. But I got to watch out for these bumblebees here. This is their territory. They're pollinating, trying to finish off their season. So I got to be really careful with all of them that are all over the Rose of Sharon here. So I'm going to keep going here and take you guys along. So cue the montage music here, if you will. You may be wondering, what am I going to do with this fruit here, right? So typically speaking, I would harvest everything that I'm planning to eat prior to doing this. Now, unfortunately, I am not going to be harvesting this. I know it's such a waste, terrible gardener, but it's okay to throw this stuff in my compost bin because it will feed the soil for next season. Wondering why I'm not just pulling all of this out by ripping it out of the ground. Now I'm going to do that eventually with the weeds themselves, no, I'm not going to do that at all. What I'm going to be doing is clipping it right down at the base, so that way as soon as I can get to that standpoint, I'm going to clip it right down at the base, and I'm going to leave the root and everything in the soil to break down over the winter and continue to feed my soil. Okay, so welcome back, guys. As you can see, we didn't get very far the other day. Family stuff, it's Labor Day weekend here, so, you know, we went out to do some more. So, reason I'm in change of clothes. It is the next day. It is very chilly out this morning. Nice windy, so hopefully that's not picking up on the mic too bad. And, but we have a little bit more to clear out here. It did rain overnight, so we are gonna get a little wet while we're doing this, but gotta love gardening, right? Rain's good for the plants, and also awesome to garden here. So let me get this done. bring you in for a bit of a tighter shot here. You can see this particular tomato plant started dying because I had kind of left it alone and it kind of started getting so. But this is what I'm talking about here. I know we've got some sun glare. There we go, a little bit better focus. So I could easily just pull this one right out from the root, right? I could, you know, grab on the stalk, yank it out. But all of this actually is great for the actual soil. So I'm just gonna go down to the base of it here with my shears, snip it off, and I'm gonna leave that part to rot out and feed the soil through the winter. So that's what we're really doing today, is cleaning all this out. And you can see also, we've got all of our marigolds just absolutely blooming. One seed turns into a plant like this. Can you believe that? So these are fantastic plants, help deter lots of critters for you in the garden. And they bush out like crazy. These are the French marigold variety. And they're such a pretty flower. So I'm going to leave the marigolds and kind of work around them because they are pretty hardy. They'll last into the fall. They'll die back on their own. Or maybe right before the winter I might come kind of cut them back, but we'll see how that goes. All right, back to the rest of it. Critter got to that one. Okay, so as you can see, pretty quick, wasn't too long, about a half hour overall. Just cleaning up the tomatoes. And so I've got these stakes here. You noticed that in the video you probably saw I was cutting off all the strings that were holding up they were staking my tomatoes. So these are actually screwed in through the outside of the frame. So I need to get my screw gun out and take these out so that we can get those out of the way. But you notice here I've got some weeds left in there. That's okay. I don't need to reweed this bed right now. What I actually am going to go do, believe it or not, is just simply take the weed whacker through here and cut them down low. That'll make it really easy for me to deal with. And then the last step in preparing this bed for me is going to be laying down leaves for a mulch over the winter to keep this bed healthy. So that mulch will, that leaves will actually keep all these weeds kind of down, but it also feed this soil, and that'll help prepare these beds. But as you can see in my backyard, it is still a bit early for the leaves to fall. They are starting to potentially change color, but you can see that's just from the up and down in the cold weather. They're not sure what to do yet. So it'll probably be another month and a half. And so I will mulch all this in and lay all that down with some leaves to help prepare that soil. Apologize, we're getting some sirens in the background. Gotta love. But you can see just the tomato plants. We took out a bed full. All right, so there you have it, guys. Just a very quick video on how I'm preparing my soil or preparing my garden for the winter time to come, so that I can still continue to feed the soil, but also not have so much of a project that I'll have next year, next spring, when it comes time to getting ready or prepping this bed. So I have before left my plants all year round, all winter, and it's just a pain in the neck trying to deal with them. So it's best to do it now if you have the time to prepare for it. If you've gotten your last harvest, if you're comfortable getting out there and getting it. As you can see, I got a couple more tomatoes off that harvest, but it's not my primary bed for tomatoes. I have more in the back. One of the things that I like to do when I am finishing up a season is start thinking about the things that I learned through that season. I mean, as a gardener, I don't care if you've been gardening for 5 minutes or 50 years, you learn something every season with your crop. So one of the things that I learned this season is that my Rosa Sharons did a lot better with the pruning than I expected. I expected them to do well, but they really took off. So they overshadowed this area. This area was not a good area for growing tomatoes. Now, I'd chosen that area because I was doing a bit of crop rotation. I had previously had cucumbers there. I wanted to try out tomatoes there. The other thing is I tried to grow too many varieties in that area. So I had 2 plants per variety, and I had 4 varieties. And as you can see in this area, is that area large enough to grow the plants the way that I wanted to? Yes, it was large enough to grow the plants that I wanted to, but as you can see, the Rosa Sharons just kind of dwarfed over top of it, caused a little bit too much shade. It also made it really tight space for me to try to deal with. The fence on the other side was a great help for the trellising of the tomatoes, but unfortunately, again, it was too tight of a space. I couldn't get behind there to harvest. So when you're planning out your area, that's one of the things that you really want to pay attention to is, did this work for me this season? Now, my peppers did phenomenally where they're planted, but they also had issues, and that's another video for another time. And if you guys want to see that, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up, and I hope you guys are staying safe and enjoying your gardens. Thanks again for watching.